Hey now, I want to show you my pickle bed. My freaking rice bran pickle bed, man. In Japanese, it's called a nuka doko. Nuka doko, rice bran spot. Nuka is this stuff. This is nuka. It's rice bran in Japanese, in English. And basically, it's what you get when you mill brown rice down to white rice, and it's the outside of the rice grain. This nuka has been dry roasted just a bit in a fry pan to give it a little bit more of a nutty profile and more of a grainy, sort of a nutty smell coming from it. And basically, this here is the nuka bed, or the pickle bed, and you're basically using this nuka, or rice bran, mixing it with salt, and creating a medium to make pickles, fermented lactobacteria pickles, basically. Yeah. So natural lactobacteria exists in the air and on everything and stuff like that. So they'll be in your nuka, and they will come into your nuka as you make it. I keep this covered to keep the flies out, etc., etc. Let me show you what's up. And basically you mix nuka, salt, and water and create something close to a paste, but it's not exactly a paste. It's like a dry or almost a crumbly paste, kind of close to what you might get from like a graham cracker crust kind of a consistency. That I have a piece of cloth right on top of it also to keep it wet, and then I have this over the very top to keep the flies out. And you want to put it in a non-reactive vessel like glass. I prefer not to use plastic. That's why I'm using this, which is it's pottery. And see, here it is. Once you get it in there and you get all the vegetables, there are vegetables under there also. You pat it down, you squish it down so it's flat, and you don't have any air in there. Air will promote the bad sort of fermentation that you don't want. And sometimes you also will get a little bit of mold on the top. You're supposed to mix this up twice a day. If you don't, you're more susceptible to getting mold or something like that. If you do get mold out on the top, especially depending on how developed it is and what the color of the mold is, most of the times you catch it before it grows, and you scoop it off and throw it away, and add some clean, new nuka, bing, 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 to your thing to sort of help it out. Normally the mix is, like, for example, the beginning of this was like just over 2 pounds, closer to like a kilo, which is 2.2 pounds of nuka, and I put in 60 grams of salt, I believe it was, or maybe it was 120. I'd have to check the recipe again, but it was either 60 or 120 grams of salt, which I measured with a digital scale and stuff. Mixed it in when it was all dry, and then I put in the amount of water that they tell you to put in, and mixed it up and made this sort of a paste. Let me show you what happens. So now when I mix it up every time, twice a day, I have to sort of scoop down in and break that up and get everything and sort of break it up and fluff it up a bit. Pull out the vegetables that are in there already, set them to the side. For that, that's right. I have to get something here to put those veggies in when I pull them out, so I'm not just setting them on the counter. And you can see here I got some veggies sort of ready. I got daikon, which is really good to pickle. I got these red radishes also to throw in there. And one thing about them is, like, a couple of them are really, like, they're all off. They're all like smush, what do you want to say, dehydrated and old and not good as raw vegetables. So I want to see what happens to these. This is part of the experiment. And another thing about this nukazuke is that sometimes you put things in, especially in the beginning, to help it along with the fermentation. Certain things, like in the very beginning, like there's a corn cob in there also. I had a corn cob which I basically didn't bite, you know. I took the corn, excuse me, steamed the corn, cut the corn off the corn cob, and then I just put the corn cob in there also as like the beginning throwaway vegetables, so to speak. So there are these things called throwaway vegetables. So that's what these things are. And I'm hoping that one or two of them are actually regular and not gross. So I figure those will become yummy. A cucumber, another cucumber, because I'm going to pull a cucumber out of here. And I have some eggplant, but I'm not sure I'm going to have enough space to put all that in. Let's see what happens when I pull everything out, and then replace a few things. Like one or two things I'm going to keep out. Here's like, for example, a carrot, and you basically, when you pull it out, see, I dug into there and I found it under the surface right away. When you pull it out, you pull out as much of this bran paste stuff off it as you can. Throw it to the side. Here's a cucumber, and this cucumber is like freaking really soft and waggly, like a rubber band or something. And I put this in yesterday, I think it was, so it doesn't take long for it to pickle. But I want to get everything out of the way also. That's another reason I'm pulling it out. Get it out of the way and then sort of reintroduce it once I've sort of mixed everything up. The other half of the carrot. I don't have to clean them perfectly because most of them are going back in. The another slightly less waggly cucumber. That one is super waggly because I was pushing it hard earlier to get it to go under the surface. So I pushed on it, I have to admit. Oh, I must have, wow, sorry. I must have already, oh no I didn't, there you go. So I'm looking for the corn cob. I think I'm going to take the corn cob out finally. It's been in there for 5 days. Though maybe, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll put it back in. I'll decide after. I think, so like a corn cob would give it sweetness, I imagine, or hopefully. I'm hoping. I also put in certain aromatic things like Chinese pepper, or they say you can put in garlic and stuff. I wanted to avoid garlic or onions or anything like that. So I put in myoga, which is Japanese ginger leaves, and I put in shiso, which is beefsteak plant. But not a ton. I don't know. It's my first time ever to do it, so I figure a little bit plain is fine. And so now I've got everything out, and you can see what it's like in there. And I have to just dig and dig and make sure I got everything that's like stuck on the bottom, and sort of dig it up. So it sort of aerates a bit. But even though once it aerates, I'm gonna let it. I'm gonna put it back in and squish it down. Yeah. So there you go. I got it all, more or less. Let's see. I'm gonna keep. I'm gonna put this corn cob back in. Stick it way down on the bottom. Way down on the bottom, but not touching the bottom. I'm going to put one cucumber back in. So let me find another place on the other side. On the bottom. And I'll put the big half of the carrot back in. Again, so look for a place to pack it in on the bottom so that it doesn't get in the way of other things. There you go. Oops, I forgot to pull out the salt. So and I'm going to keep these two, which are basically a carrot and a cucumber, and I'm going to eat it later on. So when you put more veggies back in, you're supposed to wipe them down with a bit of salt. So let me grab the salt. And you're basically trying to keep a salt to nuka ratio. You don't want it to get insanely salty. You don't want your mix to get insanely salty. And one way you can find out, supposedly, supposedly to my wife, according to my wife, to figure out if it's too salty is you just taste the medium. So I'm going to take a teeny weeny pinch. I don't need it. It's all over my fingers. I'm going to lick my fingertip with just a bit. And I'm going to re-enter my fingertip back in there. I am fearless. Yeah, it's not insanely salty. These are pickles for me anyway, so you don't have to eat them. It's not insanely salty. It's actually good. And so I figure, and I'm going to add some more nuka during this process. And normally I would have to add nuka and then more salt and more water, right? But I'm figuring the salt, I'm getting the salt from the salt that I'm going to put in with veggie. And I'm going to get more water from the veggies that I'm putting in because I'm putting in pretty watery, solid vegetables that once they start wilting will wilt out a ton of water. So because I don't want this mixture to become too wet because then it'll mold up, get moldy. So I take a bit of the salt, take my cucumber, kind of go over here over the thing, so because it doesn't matter if I drop a bit of salt into here. Okay, just throw my cucumber down for now. Grab a bit more of these. Oops. Grab some of these daikon bits. Also salt them up. Rub the daikon bits down with salt before I throw them in. And of course, I'm not just throwing them in. I'm going to, in just a second, I'm going to like play with them and see how many of them I can neatly get under the surface, basically, before I add more nuka on. But of course I'm going to add more nuka anyways. Here's other red radishes. I want to put all of those guys in. But salt it up first, salt it up first, salt it up first, and then the last bits of daikon, salt it up first. In a way, it's good to get the salt and the remaining nuka off my hands by rubbing each one like this. Okay. One of the radishes fell on the floor. So I wash it off, just in case. Dry it off. So here it is. Give it the last bit of salt. Okay, let's see how many of these guys I can bury in there. How much space I can sort of find underneath. I want them buried, but like not like right on top of each other kind of deal. I want everybody to sort of have their own space. Like every vegetable, hopefully, will be surrounded by salty nuka, right? Surrounded sort of by the bed. And if that's what's going on, then it should pickle in a day or two or even less a lot of times. Like once it really gets cranking, once you really get a whole bunch of, once it gets older basically, and the bacteria colony sort of gets stronger basically, it'll pickle in a lot less time. And then eventually, and also it can eventually go off. And there's lots of methods to keep it from going off. Here's what I got, but obviously everybody's not buried. I'm going to see if I can bury any of these guys a little bit better. There you go. Push them in as much as I can. And then I'm going to, that one seems to be hitting somebody else, so let's move it. So I'm going to rearrange it. There, that's better. Excuse me. And then I am going to a lot of them went down nice and far. Oh, this one here. Now, I have a whole bunch sort of sticking out over here anyways. So I'm going to add a healthy layer. It doesn't matter. I can't add too much or anything, you know. I'm going to sort of add a healthy layer so that everything is, especially so that everything is covered that I want covered in there. Now it's probably got what, you know, not even a centimeter, not even a half an inch, or probably something closer from like a half an inch to a quarter of an inch of nuka on top of it, everything. Now, instead of adding water, I'm going to mist it with a little bit of water. First, let me wash off my hands so I don't make a mess of this mister thingy. Granted, my hands will be, will go right back into it as soon as I do that. Let me wipe off the sides here. So if my hands are dirty already, I'll use them to wipe off the sides. Okay, wash them off a bit. Okay, now that they're washed, wipe this up a bit here. Okay, now I'm going to use this guy to mist it just a bit, because if it's only this thick, it's probably already getting a little bit of the water from up below also, so it's probably also starting to absorb upward. Capillary action, or whatever how you want to call it. So let me give it sort of a few times around. Need that stuff into the layer below it, so it's part of the paste as opposed to just a dry powder on top. Yeah, so I'm just basically pushing down on it, sort of trying to make it meld with a layer below, which it pretty much is. It's getting there. Again, cleaning off the sides. And now I will maybe give it one last squirt or so. And then I'm going to take this fabric here, which is the top, what do you want to say, the lid, quote unquote, and put it right on the top. Top. Actually, I'm going to use it once to wipe off the edge, and then put it down in. I'm wiping the extra nuka off the sides just so that I don't sort of create little places for mold to start. Mold wants to start where everything sort of touches air. Mold needs some air in there in the mix, I believe. I mean, of course, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not a scientist at all, but I believe that mold probably, maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, don't listen to me. So here it is with the thing on the top. And I put this thing here back over it before I do anything, before I taste me pickle. Ah, tasting me pickly. There you go. Here's the rubber band, which I use to keep it nice and tight around the top. No flies. No fruit flies. There you go, man. So it's done. Let's check out some picklage. Yeah. Hey, let's see what the carrot tastes like. damn salty. Ah, yeah, it's cool. That's interesting. It has a yeah, has an interesting profile. Cool. Like the lactobacteria part of it, I think, creates like this sort of a tangy sourness of sorts. It's hard to explain, but it's perfect. It's kind of gamey. I'm gonna wash some of that extra off of this super waggly, squished up cucumber. Try it off just a bit. There's my super waggly, squished up cucumber. Let's see what we got. Ooh, it's super waggly and squished up. Damn, that'd be good. That's funky. And lactobacteria and the bacteria that you create in here are beneficial bacteria for your gut. That's how fermented food is good for you. Just can't stop, man. These things are perfect with like beer and stuff, but they're also good to like eat with rice. Sort of flavor the rice. A bowl of rice with a whole bunch of pickles. Kind of like the Japanese version of kimchi. Anyways, that's what I got for you. Check it out. Bye.